Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It is a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza here on Saturday night. West Virginia has defeated UCF 31-21 to wrap up the regular season at Milan Puskar Stadium. The entire regular season ends a week from today with a road game against Texas Tech, and who knows what at stake. I know what won't be at stake. A bowl bid. The Mountaineers punched their ticket to the postseason here, and to help me comb through all the details, nobody, absolutely nobody. Chris Anderson away from the team for undisclosed reasons. I will let him clarify if he wants to when he returns on Monday for our podcast. Nothing serious, just a conflict of schedule. And since he pinch hit when I was covering the game in Cincinnati and doing the post game with the interviews and writing a story, I decided I would be the great teammate here tonight and continue on without him and just take some questions from the audience here. After a few brief thoughts about this game, the Mountaineers win, and I don't know what you say. It's probably maybe what you expected, even if it isn't what you hope for a couple of reasons. One, West Virginia is just better than Central Florida. You could see that out there tonight. I think when you look at the differences, West Virginia just had a better attack on offense. Not explosive, efficient though, and just kind of calculated, knows what to do and how to move the ball against that defense, but also how to play the game in the style that the Mountaineers want to play it, and that is to get ahead and to stay ahead. When they're at their best, they are running the ball, running out time of possession, running up the snap count, just kind of burying you beneath their productivity, whether it's in small chunks or big chunks, it adds up. And you look down at the stat sheet tonight, it's not a ton of yards, not a ton of points, but a lot of plays, a lot of third down conversions, a lot of fourth down conversions, first downs in net, a good number again. And the more that offense is on the field, the less the defense is on the field. I don't know if game film didn't arrive on the UCF sideline until late in the game when they'd have said, maybe if this Rizek guy can throw the ball. I don't know. Maybe West Virginia can't stop the ball in the air. I don't know. I wonder if they had thrown twice as many more passes, if they would have had twice as many more yards. Who knows? Just did not feel like they were going to be prolific through the air against the Mountaineer secondary. And if you don't think you can do that, and if you're not going to do that against those defensive backs, they are a better rush defense than they are a pass defense. And UCF still got their yardage. RJ Harvey still got his shine, but it just wasn't enough. And when you're down 14, when you're down a couple of scores to West Virginia, they're going to make it hard. They're going to run the clock. They're going to squeeze it out a little bit. And they're going to make you play the way that Central Florida doesn't want to play. Some teams can do that. Central Florida couldn't. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And probably the big difference here is that the defense was not a disaster. Did give up the customary big play on a double move. Other than that, got hurt by RJ Harvey, got hurt by the running game, but didn't lose a limb, didn't bleed out on the field there. Just kind of kept going and recovered and able to do enough to win the game. So what does it mean? Yeah, 6 wins at least in the regular season. That's about it. Are they going to be in a great bowl? Probably not. Are they going to be at home? They're not. Will they win at Texas Tech? It's going to be a hard game. That team just scored 56 points, but they also have one of the worst pass defenses out there, and they're not very good in that side of the ball. They need to score because they can't stop scores, and that'll be a similar sword fight for West Virginia because they're wired to be the same right now. They're not as explosive offensively, but they're certainly aware of what their defense does. And then I don't know anything else going on as far as a backdrop to this game. I don't know. The future is bright. No, we don't know about the head coach, right? We'll get to those questions. I'm going to backload that because I do want to put the focus on the game. We're going to talk a lot about coaching, perhaps more than we even know right now, but that's going to be a topic for sure. Let's hit the questions from the game first. I'm going to go to the queue here in the post that I put up. If you're not familiar, on the VIP side of our site, which you can sign up for anytime you want. Find all the perks online, Paramount Plus after you've been signed up for a while, so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with the pitch. You know it. But when you get on the VIP side, we often throw up Q&A questions, answers solicited from the crowd. That's a perk, right? You can hear them, but you can ask them if you get on the other side of the fence. So what we'll do here is we'll take some questions from the premium side for the answers that are asked. Kind of democratic process here. Well, the ones that are upvoted the most, those get the preferential treatment. And then since I'm the president of the space, I can just kick out whatever ones I don't want to ask. So let's start with just some ones about the game tonight. I'm going to go through live here, so we'll actually see. I don't know how organized I am and how this could not be. Maybe less tidy than it is right now. Um, Question here from WV Nomad 7. We were up 21. Why does it still feel like we lost? Now we make fun of Neil for turtling up, but when will he realize in the Big 12 you need to continue to be aggressive no matter what? It's almost like a summary of the last 6 years. Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. It's a frustration because it's been like that before, but it's the smart way to play sometimes. For example, that field goal when it is a 28 to 14 game makes it three scores. And that defense could give up touchdowns for sure. We've seen that happen before in rapid succession. Three scores is a little bit harder. You can't add the 17 with two scores. You need three. So I think there's a way of being strategic about this before, but realistically, is West Virginia going to hang out 50 in a lot of games? Just not the way they go. They're going to need turnovers and extra possessions and just kind of explosive pass plays or rushing plays that just I haven't been there this year and just typically haven't been there through Brown's time. There have been exceptions where they've been pretty good in offense, but um, you can want that for sure, and you may want that for 6 years, but it's not in the bottle right now, and there's nothing you can't reach into that bag and pull that out. Doesn't exist. So yeah, that is kind of a bummer right now. Moving on here. Was Ray all of our downfield passing? Yeah, he's their vertical guy for sure. I think if there's a chance that Justin Robinson could have done that more if he was in there. They probably missed Jaden Bray in that regard too. Remember, two catches for 88 yards for him. Robinson can get open down the field too. Hudson Clement, um, again, his greatest asset, he's always in the right spot. You know where to find him. He knows where to go and he's going to be there. So if you look for him right away, he'll be there. If you come back to him, you know where he's going to be. Is he a burner? I don't know. Probably not. I think he's a plus athlete, probably more than he gets credit for. Vertically, maybe not. Makes great catches, but he does get open too. So maybe that's something he can do. Ray is certainly that guy. That's the guy that they draw up stuff for, and they've tried to hit home runs with him a bunch. And they do miss him for one reason like that is as you've just explained right now. Um, Snufficator asks, what allowed WVU to have so much success against UCF on defense? I didn't think we'd smother them the way we did for large stretches of the game. Played a bunch of like four linebacker sets, 4-3-3-4, depending on how you look at it. Defensive lineman with Tyron Bradley or Ty French down or playing on that boundary side, and then three linebackers in there too. You saw a lot of Trey Lathan, Josiah Trotter, and Reed Carrico. That makes them bigger, just naturally bigger to stop the run. I don't think you want Kekora Tarnu playing a lot of that spear position, having to stop the run. Burks was good at that. Not great, but he's good at it. And I think he might have grown to that, become even better. That's one of the reasons they moved him down from the top of the defense in the deep safety to the spears. They thought he could be a plus tackler in the run game. Never really got that with Tarnu or whomever else they put in there this season, even though Tarnu has played pretty well, I think, especially filling in, just kind of learning that on the fly. Your better run defense is going to have more linebackers on the field. Trouble is you're a little bit slow at times, and there were some moments where UCF, an inside zone team, start inside and bounce it outside just because West Virginia wasn't as fleet-footed. But I think the fact that they were bigger, more bodies, more force, more muscle, more tackling, frankly, helped them against the run. And you didn't see a lot of perimeter stuff because they were able to go out there and really thump some people with their bodies and get off blocks. That helped out quite a bit. Let's see. See Hush, why can we not close out games with Neil? Everyone we go up against, we always seem to let creep back in and make it interesting. Does play calling change significantly? Yeah, so yeah, probably a little bit, but you're going to run the ball because you're better running it than passing it. When you pass it, you've seen Green skip passes and sail passes and throw interceptions, whereas a handoff is pretty low risk and sometimes high reward. And even if you do an okay job three times running the ball, you're going to get three more chances to run the ball. And even if you don't do it right three times, West Virginia's pretty content doing it a fourth time. They don't mind going for it on fourth down. And it just, again, that's their style, their philosophy. Like it or not, that's what they do. It hasn't changed a whole lot from last year when they were winning games and scoring a lot of points. And again, like people don't want to admit this or hear this or be reminded of this, but if you look at what the Mountaineers wanted to do on offense, run plays, run clock, get first downs, get rushing yardage, get in the red zone and score. They were in conference play last season as good as some of the best teams in the country offensively. Those are picky stats. I understand that's not passing yards, it's not points per game, but those are the things they wanted to be good at, and they were good at it. Hasn't really changed as far as their focus. They just haven't been as good at it this year. And I think sometimes they come out of their shoes a little bit because they have to be punchier, more potent, more aggressive at least, because of their defense. By getting out front tonight, you work really hard to get a lead. Even with your defense, you don't want to give it up by making mistakes. And sometimes the devil you can deal with. And you can play that style that maybe you don't like. Neil can play the style that maybe you don't like. but he can deal with the ups and downs, and he knows how to get out of trouble, even if he gets himself in trouble with the way he's played that because he's more familiar with it. A friendly WV fan asks, "How was the atmosphere at the stadium?" Um, it was empty. It was 40,000. That's probably about right, but just I think it's hard to be loud when it's wet and cold. And I think the good thing for West Virginia fans was that the defense gets a stop and you get two touchdowns pretty quick to 14 nothing. That kept people from bailing or going home and booing for sure. I think you have just the obvious, I mean, literal and figurative cloud hanging over things right now as to what's going to happen with the coach's future, what's going to happen with this team, what bowl they go to, will they be bowl eligible, who's going to be your quarterback, your running back, your offensive line in the future. Some of that stuff happens, but I think for a night you're actually able to say, got what you wanted for a home game here, beat a team that you probably should beat. The fact that that's even a question, probably for if you saw Central Florida tonight, is probably not encouraging, but that's kind of the way that goes. But I didn't, there wasn't any booing. You didn't see people with brown paper bags. You didn't see people with like fire Neil Brown, this or that. I've seen a lot of that the last couple of games, like the brown paper bags over the head, fire Neil Brown or FMB t-shirts. Didn't see that tonight, and you could see a lot of people because there weren't that many at the game. What's going on here? I'm not going to answer that. My pregame meal, not important. Uh, Bacon Mike 47 asks, was Gus Malzahn allowed to scout West Virginia's defense? Kind of the point, right? Like West Virginia has clear soft spots. I think they protected some of them tonight. Even late when it looked bad, I think that was because they did not want to get beat over the top or give up something big and easy. So you kind of play soft and make them do it a bunch of times in a row rather than just once, because that actually came about when Central Florida maybe spooked them a little bit, got a bunch of big runs and then big pass plays in a row. I think three or four, three 20-yard pass plays on one drive on like a 6-play drive. And then after that, West Virginia said, nope, we're going to play soft and we're going to make you earn it. They were not able to do that quickly. So, yeah, I think they could have probably hit the perimeter more. I think that would have stretched out Kobe Hudson more. I would have thrown more double moves. I would have really challenged the corners more than they did. That's not the way they play, though. They want to run the ball to run the ball and sometimes hit play action. What did surprise me, just didn't hit the perimeter, didn't run screens. Their quarterback, Dylan Reisig, in his two starts had thrown 12 screen passes. I'd be surprised if he threw three tonight. And if you watched what Baylor did and what some other teams have done, they've gotten the ball in the perimeter, whether it's like flipping it out on just flares to the running back or screens to running backs or even receivers. That's been effective. And West Virginia hasn't been the best tackling team on the perimeter for sure. Again, I think that's different tonight when you have the extra linebacker there and you're playing bigger and it's hard to block West Virginia's defenders. But they didn't challenge them enough, I don't think. Had a do-over, you probably see something different here. Going on to our second page. Again, reading some of these for the first time right now, too. Trying to get the ones about the game before we get to ones about Neil Brown's future. Surprisingly, not a lot of people are clued into the game too much here. All right, that appears to be the ones about the game, which is not good. That's probably a state of affairs thing right now. Oh, wait a minute. Here's one. Thank you, WVU Flyer. This one is specifically labeled game question. Was UCF just not equipped to air it out more offensively? Clearly, their running back is a stud and the focal point of their team, but it seems like a questionable choice by UCF. Yeah, again, that's not what they do. It's just not. And then the reason they've gone through quarterbacks, I think, is because maybe this guy's more efficient than the other guys, but he's also limited to in the running game, which is why they played a backup Ja'Carri Brown to open things up, and he's not going to pass the ball. I don't think he's passed the ball the last 3 games, and he's come in as a running option. Um, Not sure why. I mean, Reisig had a great game when he started for the first time. That was against Arizona. Have you seen Arizona? Their secondary is in flames pretty much every time they're on the field, so that's not a great thing. Their last game they played against Arizona State, he made some big mistakes, including throwing an interception from his goal line with like seconds left in the first half. And if you notice that when West Virginia punted the ball deep and didn't get a penalty on the punter, but pinned pinned UCF deep, what are they going to do? Run, run, run. They just threw a deep ball. And I said this in the post that I don't think that they trust the quarterback to pass the ball here. Just don't commit pass interference and you'll get the ball back. Because that was an interesting point. Brown had punted on 4th and 3 from maybe the 42 or 43-yard line on the plus side of the field. Why punt it? Well, see if UCF will do it and not screw up. And UCF did not trust his quarterback based on what happened against Arizona State. Again, an interception in your goal line is bad. That's one reason, maybe the big reason they lost that game. They went from up 17-14 to down 21-17 like that when all they had to do was get to halftime and figure out a way to duck and cover and win that game. Did they win? I don't know, but certainly going into the half in a deficit when you're up before that, That's a blow. So don't do that in this situation. What do? Run, run, play action, or run, run, and then deep pass, defensive pass interference on West Virginia. They get the ball back. They end up scoring anyway, so it didn't work out too well. But yeah, I think that's a clear indication of the strengths of UCF's offense, which is also an indication of weaknesses. And as hard as they hit the portal, they don't have a quarterback. And they've got a couple quarterbacks from different schools, and I'm not sure that Razik is the answer, but be very interesting to see what happens there in the future. A lot of changes already. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator within the season. Um, how long does Malzahn do this? Does he want to do this? We'll see for sure. All right. Now let's get to the Neil Brown's future portion of the program. I'm going to blow through these and answer them as briefly as I can because there's a lot of them, and I'm not sure how much you want to hear me drone on this. Some of these are going to be repetitive, so I'm going to probably skip a couple, and I'm going to try to answer a bunch of these in tandem as I can. So don't be offended if I don't ask your question, but I still might answer your question if you listen closely. From GD Full, does the outcome of tonight and or next week impact any decision about 25? I'd like to think that if there was a decision made, I'd know it, and then by extension, you would know it. I just think that here's your issue right now. And I'm going to cite a wise man named Neil Brown, who says this. We've still got a lot to play for. 7 wins, and we've got an opportunity to win 6 conference games in the Big 12. We've got a chance to have our best back-to-back years with Big 12 records. It's true. There's an aesthetic here. West Virginia's a hard job, and I shouldn't say that. West Virginia is a niche job. How about that? And if you have a coach who goes 6-3 in back-to-back seasons in the Big 12 and you can them, I think you're going to have a lot of questions you have to answer. Should that discourage West Virginia from making the change? I don't know. I don't think it should because, again, you're working on a body of work. I don't think this is about 2 games. I don't. I think it's about 6 games and 6 years and however many games he's played. I think you could probably circle a bunch of games um, to with like a record. So if you don't like this record against ranked teams or teams with winning records, whatever one of these stats we've conjured up and used as evidence against Brown, you probably worry more about that than what's going to happen in these next 2 games. I don't think you want to be the prisoner of the moment for good or bad or any times. That's why there wasn't a termination during the season here, and that's why I just don't think that they would have done one if they lost tonight. But here's the question that I think I can answer a lot of these for. If they win next week, if they don't win next week, you've got weeks between the end of the season and a bowl game. You're not going to wait till after the bowl to make a change. You're just not, unless he leaves, which would be weird, right? But let's just say that West Virginia has already decided and intends to move on from Neil Brown. You'd probably be better off doing that soon, right? Like maybe yesterday, or maybe now, or maybe immediately after the last regular season game. So you'll know, I think, by Sunday of next week, Monday of next week, win or lose, if he's still your coach, a couple of days into the following week, that's probably an indication. If he's doing the signing day news conference, yeah, you probably know what the deal is right there. There's just no way they're going to bring him back to coach the bowl and then get rid of him. It doesn't work. The timetable doesn't add up with recruiting in the transfer portal and also trying to hire a coach to replace him if you wait that long. There's nothing in the contract about this. Please be discerning about the contract stuff. If anybody tells you that the contract drops and the buyout drops on June 1st, July. How about this? Don't listen to me. If anybody tells you that the contract changes and the buyout drops on January 1st, delete that person from your phone and maybe your life. Is that harsh? Maybe, but that's how serious we have to be about this, right? But that's the great question right now, too, is, I don't think they're making a change if they lose tonight's game. Don't know next week now. 6-6, hard sell. I don't know. It's a hard sell on people. 7-5. Does that make you feel good about all the doubt you had during this season, after the 2022 season, maybe even at points during the 2023 season? Does it make you feel jazzed or concerned about, going into next season with a lot of changes to make on the roster, perhaps even in your staff? That's a lot to think about right there. And if you're not sure, if you're not enthusiastic about your answer, yes. If you're not sure about your answer, yes. You probably know the answer. Sometimes if you have to ask the question, you know the answer. Next question here is from, accidentally ignored you there, Wolfie, my bad. Is it to be understood that Rem Baker has permission from the administration and the money to fire Neil Brown? I don't think permission is the right word. but I get the point of the question. And this is kind of what I reported last night. Just the thinking has changed. And let me just defend myself and Chris here for a little bit too. For weeks, people have been asking us, what's the likelihood at 5-7, 6-6, 7-5, and then just those are hard questions to ask in a moment because everything changes. So what I gave you 4 weeks ago is obviously not going to be the same as now. Fortunately, you ask me this every day and every time we talk, so that's okay. I can be fluid in my responses. I don't know that permission is the right way. I think that money and the financial cost is a major impediment. I don't have to tell you that. I just think that it got to be a situation now where everybody says, seen this for 6 years. I don't feel great about it. What's happened in the past. I don't feel great about it going in the future. Yeah, there's a major, major burden with the finances coming if we make this change, combined with the finances that are on the way with revenue sharing and all that. Yeah, this program needs a financial facelift when it comes to staffing, budget, things like that. Do not let that be what talks you out of making a decision that's best for the program. That's kind of what I think this has come down to. Does that mean permission? I'm not sure he was told no ever before. I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. But I've never gotten a thing that like someone smacked him on the hand and said, you can't fire this coach. We're poor. He's too good. We like him. We want to work. I don't think it ever happened. But I just think it's clear now that that's not going to be used as a strike against Baker. If it comes out that, hey, we want to fire this coach, I don't think they're going to be like, hey, man, we told you not to do that. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think it was like that before. I just think the difference now is that if he goes into a room, let's say, and says, I'd like to fire the coach, they're going to be like, listen, man, we understand what we're about to do with the finances. Let's make this work. Fire the coach, and we'll find a way to fund, pay out, buy out, all that stuff. We'll find a way. I just don't think they want to be in a bad situation because of another situation they can work on. You're in a bad situation if you want to fire your coach and you keep him. You're in a bad situation if you want to fire your coach and you keep him and you have the finances, right? Those finances are going to be bad, tricky, no matter what. You can control the bad situation with your head coach if you want to fire him. You know what I mean? So like one of these, there's two problems. This one's not going away, the finances. This one over here, the head coach can go away. You're going to work on both, right? But one of them is just going to be there no matter what. You can make the other one go away. That's kind of where we're at right now, I think. Moving on here. I'm going to skip questions about the Big 12 championship game because I can't believe we're asking them. And like by the time that you hear this in the morning, perhaps we'll know more than I know right now, too. Um, Again, bowls don't know yet. All the bowls are in play for the team. Again, I'm not going to answer questions about my pregame and postgame meal because that doesn't really matter, but we'll see. Strange Duck. Rumor is a 6-6 is worthy of firing Neil Brown. What a 7-5 mean? I just don't think it changed anything. I mean, yeah, it's 2 games above 500 versus 500, but like, who's it against? Like, you're not beating BYU and Arizona State at the end here. You're beating Central Florida and Texas Tech. Texas Tech might be a good win, but that's going to be a 7-5 team if you beat them, which is what you would be. And that doesn't really change the metric of his record against so-so teams. It's not that. So I think that you could certainly see that nothing is to be gained here, especially now that he has a 6 win. Like you're still bowl eligible. Just kind of where they're stuck at right now. I don't know. It's the confusing part of this right now. Like by the time I talk to people tonight or tomorrow, there might be something more definitive one way or the other. But I think that's the fact that it kind of gives people pause right now. This is a weird situation, and it just gets weirder. Neil is elastic for sure, and this is kind of um, another mark in that column, I believe. Let's see here. Crawdaddy 26554 asks, what are your thoughts on the fact that WVU is on the cusp of winning the senior day to secure bowl eligibility? No one cares about the game and only wants to discuss when or if the coach is getting fired. I think that we all know what that means. That's just a state of affairs for sure. Moving on here. Tampa Near says, what specifically changed in people's views on firing Brown based on your report last night? Donor money became available that wasn't there before? Becoming aware of fan dissent? Feedback from the MAC and CRT? I didn't report anything. I just kind of told you what's going on there. People want to know all the time. And just in short, just that he's become aware that the money and the financial concerns are not going to be impediments to him making a move if he wants to do it. That does not mean he's going to make a move. If they're 7-5, that's going to be an awkward situation. A fired coach who's 7-5 and who just told you that the program's never been 6-3 in back-to-back years in the Big 12. That's tough. See what happens. What changed? I just think as time passes, and again, we're all plugged into what we talk about every day. A lot of people aren't, right? But also, if you think about not the daily and weekly conversations we have, but you think about multiple years and trends, and not just record, but a lot of stuff we may not have access to, which is conversation with donors, stuff we see, like which is fan support, which is dwindling, billboards, empty stands, 40,000 people for the final home game of the season, a 3-4 home record, the record against ranked teams, the record against teams winning records, all that stuff, right? You just realize that it is what it is, and like the barge sometimes doesn't turn around, and sometimes the channel is too small to do it. That doesn't really change quickly, but I think that over time, people just say, this is what it is. And do you really think that it's going to be better if you keep crossing your fingers? Sleeping with the tooth under your pillow. Are you going to get what you want when you wake up? I don't know. Probably not. So I think that's what's changed is that people just came around to saying, yeah, the money is a problem, but the money's going to be a problem no matter what. Can't control that. Can't control who's the coach. That's probably the best way I can put it. I probably should have made that more of a central point of my initial response to the question, but I think that's just kind of the thing that people come around on to, and that moreover, like you can turn this around quickly. I think fans will come back. I think people are starting to realize that too, because they'll go away for sure, but they want to be here too. And if you give them something they want to be here for, that should be significant fuel for people, I think. Moving on here. If we win at Tech in a bowl game, that's 8-5. Do you still think they make a move? I could see a win at Tech now. They were struggling with OK State. They're not firing 8-5 Neil Brown for two reasons. One, he'd be 8-5 Neil Brown, and two, he would have coached the bowl game. They're just not going to do that. They're not going to, even if he goes 7-6 Neil Brown, if he coaches the bowl game, he's not going anywhere. And if he does, come back for the podcast because it's a ridiculous move by West Virginia. Unless they have some weird wink wink deal with somebody who's only going to be available to West Virginia after they play a bowl game and then fire their coach. I just don't see that being I don't see that being an outcome here. Jay Cobbs, 90. 6-6 isn't going to be enough, right? Wrong. There's a way he comes back 6-6. Just, I mean, I don't feel great about that anymore. But if he's not coming back in 6-6, we'd know. Like he wouldn't have been coaching tonight probably, or he won't be coaching Saturday. 6-6, there's a chance for sure that he's the coach here. I don't like his chances if I'm him, but 6-6 is survivable, I think. Should it be? Not the question. So I don't have to answer that. But I think there's a world where 6-6 Neil Brown can be here. Uh, Likely, I don't think it's likely, but there's a chance for sure. Because again, that money it could be a thing. And again, if Baker knows more than we do, which I certainly hope is the case, he might have a good feel for who's going to be available, who's not. I think a lot of people think this is going to be a slow year for Power Four changes. You're going to see a lot of coaches concentrated to really good Group of Five jobs. But if West Virginia is maybe the one of the better jobs available in the Power Four, you think you might be able to pull somebody good. But listen, Baker knows more about that stuff, and you kind of trust on him on this one here too. But does he want to act and not get the guy he wants? Does he want to act and settle, or does he think he has something in somebody? He goes, we'll know soon. But 6-6 could do it. We'll see. A couple more here. We're getting low. This is good. All right, Gravely God. Is this whole thing just weird? Every aspect of the Neil Brown era seems like we're right there, but also they're never there at any point. Any explanation of life in the Twilight Zone? Nah, man, this is Stringer Bell. This is The Wire. It's a 40-degree day. Like when it's 55, people are barbecuing, and when it's 35, people are staying inside. And when it's 40, people are like, it's okay. When it's 75, people lose their mind. And when it's 15, people are mad. But a 40-degree day is not great. But when you have the polls, you're like, all right, I can deal with a 40-degree day. Nobody wants that. And I say this a bunch. Like it's you don't get an A or an F. You really struggle to get an A or an F, and a C plus, C minus is not a place to be for sure. This is a trick question here. I'm not going to read it. So you almost got me there, but I read ahead. Odds a move is made if we finish 6-6, 7-5. Also, if we win or lose the bowl game. Again, I just want to reiterate, I do not believe they're going to make a change if Brown is the coach of the bowl game. I think that would be the writing on the wall right there. You might even have a proclamation that we are keeping our 6-6 coach for the bowl game. We are keeping our 7-5 coach for the bowl game. It's just that there's a lot of damage that comes with making a coaching change in late December or early January. Tomcat F14, the decision has been made, right? Don't know about that. I think that there are probably indications that you could say that they're leaning toward it. Like I've just heard too many names, to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean anything. Like I think you'd be derelict of duty if you're an athletic director and you're not thinking about making a change right now. But again, if this has to look a certain way before you don't make a change, you give that time. And 7-5 may be the way it has to look. I don't think 8-5 is the way it has to look. Because again, I think if you're 7-5 and he's the coach, he's gonna for the bowl game, he's gonna be the coach next year. We'll see. So just to answer the question, the decision has been made, not officially. I think there's a chance that we know for sure. But I think that that could also change in the future too. Had they lost tonight, I don't see a world in which Brown is back next year, just because it'd be tough to lose at home, and you might not like your chances at Texas Tech at 5-6. That'd be tough to do. And if you finish 5-7, that would be tough. Maybe you have made a decision. Maybe you don't even have Neil Brown for that game. You just let him go because maybe he wants to have a chance to get his name out there and get his affairs in order so he could land his next job. That is off the table now. And then finally, one more question here. We're not answering that one either. All right, let's see here. We can wrap it up and find one more good one here that I have not answered. All right, this would be it then. Coal City Ear, 5-3 conference record in the season that is universally viewed as a disaster. We are 8-3 at the cupcake out of conference schedule, like a lot of other Big 12 teams do or did play. What percentage of the current mess is Shane Lyons' fault? Poor Shane. Um, yeah, I guess I mean the fact that he gave Brown the extension that de facto has him here, that's part of it. He did schedule the non-conference the way it is, and I can tell you that they certainly looked into ways to change their schedule. There are people who wanted to alter their schedule and they just couldn't do it. Can we stop blaming Shane Lyons, right? Like the meals on the table, you got to figure out what to do with it. So, the cards are in your hand. You got to figure out what to do with it. Like that guy's far away for a long time now. If they wanted to get out of the Penn State game, if they wanted to get out of the Pitt game, they could have done stuff like that. They wanted to lighten up. They could have done stuff like that. Yeah, like Shane Lyons, some of this stuff didn't help. Not him. Like he created the problem, but he's not here to solve it. Other people are here to solve it. That'll wrap it up. Lots of good questions there. Cut it off in time, I think, for to get a lot of them in there. Understanding that people do want to talk about the coaching thing. Hopefully, it hasn't changed too much by the time you listen to this. It's gonna be a busy week, I'm sure. I think we'll hear a lot of things, and just be careful out there. Be discerning with where you're getting your information. Understand that if it has 247 in the name online, it might not necessarily be from us. We'll see how many more of those things pop up in the future. I'll try to be as right down the middle and on time with my news as I can for this. Chris will be back here before you know it. He'll have his array of Sunday stuff. I'll have the three things I think, three things I know. We'll have some snap counts, and we will talk about the end of the streak, West Virginia on defense for the first time in 18 games. I have emotional eulogy planned for the not too distant future. Until then, I am Mike Casaza. We will talk to you then.